Welcome to Game Changers Silicon Valley, a show about people who have made significant changes and contributions to our society, as well as people who are currently working to be making the game changes and innovations of the future. My name is Jim Connor. Tonight we have an interesting topic. There have been many technology advances here in Silicon Valley. Those advances are starting to show up in the educational sector. We've had many issues over the years of how we want to change education, what can be done better, and the EdTech sector is starting to gain tremendous traction and make a difference in the schools we have today. My guest tonight is Jason Singer, CEO and founder of Curriculet, a company based in San Francisco that provides a multimedia process to the classrooms as they learn certain subjects. Jason, I want to thank you for coming to the show. I look forward to talking to you. I thought I can ask you to give us a little background and how you came to the decision to start Curriculet.
Well, Jim, first of all, thank you. I enjoyed being here. Curriculet really came about from my experiences originally as both a teacher. So I began my career many years ago as an English teacher, and I was an educator, and then I was the founder of 2 charter schools, and spent kind of every day for 10 years trying to drive student achievement among our lowest performing students to the highest levels possible. And spent my time at the tail end of that really thinking about if I were going to create a new lever or pull an existing one in a way that could fundamentally transform our schools and our classrooms and the lives of teachers and students, what would it be? And Curriculet was really born out of that question.
Well, I have to ask you a little more details about it. It's, I know it's got a curriculum, but for the purposes of the audience, what exactly does it do?
So Curriculet is a digital reading platform that allows every teacher to take any text. Now that could be a novel, it could be an article from the New York Times today, it could be a document they already have, and place a layer of questions, quizzes, and rich media directly into that text. So, you know, if you remember back to the days when you were in high school and you were reading a book, and you may have had a set of questions that you got to afterward. Now those questions, along with video extensions and images and even prezzies, can literally kind of leap out of the page as a child is reading. And not only that, but the child, for the first time while they're reading, is getting information back about how well they're understanding that text. And teachers are getting data that they've never had before, dynamic data that they can get before the end of a class period or every night before they go to the bed that tells them who did the reading and who didn't, how long they were on task, how long did it take them, and how well they're mastering those standards. In fact, those Common Core standards that are so new to every teacher today. How well are my students mastering those standards on a nightly basis?
This is covering a pretty broad area of education, and so it sounds like, if I get this right, you're taking content, articles, digitizing it onto some technology, be it a computer screen or a tablet, and then layering on additional information that turns it into a, shall I say, a more interactive and engaging learning experience. Is that correct?
Well, and when you say that, it sounds like a mammoth undertaking, but on Curriculet, it's extraordinarily simple. So I can grab a URL from a news article from the New York Times today and literally paste it into a small form and hit enter, and then that article will be placed into the reader. And then all I have to do is highlight text, and a little tooltip pops up, and I say, add a question, and it's actually easier than creating a worksheet in a Word document.
You know, I've read a little bit about this Common Core standards, and there's a great deal of confusion out there and maybe controversy. And the one thing I've noticed is that it stresses the importance of reading and comprehending at the same time. It sounds like that's what one of the issues you're focusing on.
Yes. Well, I mean, what we're most focused on, and Common Core really addresses this, is students reading more deeply, closely reading the text, thinking about it very deeply as they read and very critically as they read, and being able to bridge what is happening in that text with other subject matters, with other mediums, and Curriculet allows teachers to do all of that.
So how is the deployment going? Is it by the individual parent or by the classroom? How does that work?
So our focus customer is the teacher. So we are not necessarily focused on districts per se. We believe that the greatest curriculum writers and developers in the world are the teachers in our classrooms. And if we give them a tool that makes taking their curriculum and putting it inside a text really simple, and then being able to share that very simply with each other, that we can create a massive community of really exciting technology resources that are embedded in the text for every teacher to use.
So what grade levels has this been deployed at?
So we're currently a reading to learn product as opposed to a learning to read product. Right. So our sweet spot is really that fourth to through college. We have many, many users who are professors in college classrooms who are using the product.
Yeah, I mean, I've been utterly confused by a number of classes in my history, and I read and I go, I just don't get it. I had to study financial and portfolio theory at one time, and it was just mind-numbing. And this has got to be a tremendous tool to bring in all the other rich content.
Well, I mean, the statistics are pretty profound, right? So in fifth grade, about 75% of fifth graders are reading 2 to 3 nights a week independently.
I see.
But by the time they get to 12th grade, that number is down to 20%, which is the persistent percentage of the adults, of the adult population that reads independently.
12%.
That's 20%.
20%.
So you have this, basically this decimation of the reading lives of kids in schools. So much of that has to do with the medium. A printed book, I'm a lover of printed books, but for a struggling or reluctant reader, reading is a lot like what you described. It is quicksand. Every step deeper into the text is one where they feel less sure about how much they understand and whether that text is really meaningful to them. So by putting questions in the text and immediately being able to tell the student that they got it right or they got it wrong, gives them the kind of feedback loop while reading that helps them persist and more closely read the text. The other exciting thing about Curriculet, and it's something that we're launching actually this coming week, is Curriculet is launching the first ever book rental business to schools. So we've worked
Amazon
with
of school books.
That's right, or of the trade back text. So for the first time, a teacher will be able to come onto our site, and instead of buying a text, a full printed text or a full digital license, they'll be able to rent it per student for a fraction of the cost. And each of those texts that they rent, or at least 700 of the most read, the most popular, will come with a Curriculet layer already in it that they can grab and use, and they can fully edit if they like.
So I'd love to talk about this more, how you're doing this with the book publishers, because it sounds like quite a quantum leap in their distribution model. But I want to kind of go back to the teacher adoption rate. How fast do they get up to speed? Do you train them, or is it self-evident of how to do this?
Well, our goal is for it to be as evident as possible. We know that if you offer a tool to a teacher that takes them 1 second more than they already have, it's a tool they can't use. They're simply overtaxed as it is. So what we've done is make this tool not only incredibly simple to use, we've spent more time actually taking features out of the product than adding them in so that it's dead simple. But even more importantly, we've built a product that is essentially a killer app. So we eliminate all the work that a teacher should never have to do. A teacher who uses a Curriculet doesn't go to the photocopier. They don't hand papers out and pick them up in class. They don't grade multiple choice questions. All this work goes away, and now they can focus on the work that really matters, which is reaching kids, meeting them where they're at, and giving them exciting learning resources.
Now, is this part of also the flipped classroom approach?
It is. And
maybe you can describe the flipped classroom for everybody.
So a flipped classroom is where the instruction can actually happen when the student is out of the class. So with Khan Academy, students can watch videos outside the class and learn a mathematical process, and then answer some questions. And so when they come back into class, the teacher's able to focus more on practice, walking around the room, helping students identify where their learning shortfalls are and bringing them up to level. We've been able to do that with a book. Now a teacher can actually even embed videos of themselves inside the book,
Really?
explaining the content, modeling a reading strategy, explaining a standard, so that when the students come back into class, they're ready to, have a discussion or do a project.
I have to ask you though, I got to believe that some teachers would love this idea that they're on video teaching the class in this tablet or computer screen. Is that correct?
Well, I think the students may love it even more than the teacher.
You think the students love it?
Yeah. There's certainly a population of teachers who are hams enough that they love that idea.
Yeah.
But I think universally, students seeing their teachers pop out of a book while they're reading is a pretty funny and exciting.
That's great. So just touch basic now. You got the book rental going, so students can read any more or less current book from a series of publishers. Is that correct?
That's right, and from the big 5 publishers.
Big 5.
So the books that students are dying to read are available with a curriculate layer that a teacher can either use, edit, or create their very own.
So school doesn't have to buy the physical book.
No.
No shipping costs, none of that stuff. They get it for a period of time, and then it sort of goes up in smoke, or
That's right.
it goes away because it's expired. Is that correct?
And every viewer can relate to the fact that, so I was a principal and I made choices on reading selections, and it always had to do with, is it in the book room, and can any teacher teach it? And now what we've done with book rentals is blown up the book room. That's why I read the same books my dad read, and when I was a principal, my kids were reading the same books. But now without a book room, when it's a 3-month rental and it's a fraction of the price, teachers can afford to purchase any text and save money over time.
Right. Really, 2 last questions. We'll go pretty quick. And the first one is, you have a history as having started 2 charter schools. You've been a principal. This must be key leverageable experience when you talk to schools or talk to teachers.
I think what we have built is a company that really, truly, deeply, from a ground level, understands teachers almost better than any company on the planet, and certainly is building with a great deal of empathy and desire to build products that empower them. Okay.
Then your decision when you, shall I say, left the teaching profession or the school founding profession must have been a pretty big decision. Did you, can I say, agonize over that? Did you just cut the cord one day and say, I have to do it because I don't want to look back 20 years from now and say I should have done something?
Well, I was a principal for 10 years, which is a lifetime in public education, and I loved every single minute of it. It is if you're wired for it, it's the greatest job in the world. So I left it with a lot of agony about not being able to do that on a daily basis, but with a lot of excitement that I was building a company that has the ability to transform schools and even the lives of other principals by making the lives of teachers easier.
Great. Jason, what's the best way for interested parties, teachers in particular, to contact you?
Well, we would love for you to go to www.curriculet.com and establish a free account and enjoy the product deeply and share it with your friends. And reaching out to us through the help system is the best way to make sure your questions get answered. Okay.
I really want to thank you very much for coming by. It's been delightful to have you here. I've enjoyed learning more about your product and the program you're running. I think it's a great step forward into preparing students for the 21st century world.
Thank you so much.
This is Jim Connor. I want to thank you all for watching our episode of Game Changers, Silicon Valley. We'll be back next week with another episode. We have a request to Steve Wozniak. We're waiting for him to get back to us, but we'll have a couple other Game Changers, I'm sure. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.